Donna Schwartz here from the Everything Saxophone podcast, and I'm live at NAMM 2020. We're at the Key Leaves Everything Saxophone podcast NAMM Hang, and I'm here with Rajiv Halim. I'm so happy to have met you.
Yeah, it's great to meet you too, Donna. Yeah.
Awesome. He's a monster player out of Chicago. I'm going to let him introduce himself, and we're going to also talk about some other things as well. So take it away. Tell us about yourself, Rajiv.
Sure. So I was born and raised in Chicago, grew up there playing, and kind of got into the jazz scene in my late teens and studied with a lot of great players in Chicago, and yeah, pretty much been there teaching and playing. I put out my first album in 2015. I'm working on another one right now. I go out to New York and LA and different places sometimes to play, but yeah, pretty much just in Chicago.
Cool. Now talk to us about your album. So what style of music is it? Is it like traditional, like standards, like straight ahead jazz, or is it, a little twist on that? What exactly is it?
Sure. I mean, it's kind of based a lot in more acoustic music, traditional straight ahead type of stuff, but honestly I think there's only one tune on there that's like really swinging. I didn't really get into straight ahead jazz until I was about 16, 17, and prior to that I was big into Gerald Albright and Kirk Whalum and cats like that, and grew up on a lot of Motown music and blues and soul music and things like that. And my family's actually from the Caribbean. My parents are from Belize. And so I grew up on a lot of Caribbean music as well as, reggae, calypso, one-tub music and stuff like that. So there's a lot of influence from that in there. There's a lot of influence from more of a soul background, blues background. But of course there's a lot of improvisation in there as well.
Yeah, and I've heard him improvise too, and you'll see it after this interview. He did a duo with Alex Hahn, which was really phenomenal, and you have a phenomenal sound, which we're going to get to in a minute. But talk to us also about a little bit more about your playing in terms of what was your latest album?
Sure. So I haven't released another one since my first one. I'm working on some new tunes right now, and yeah, so it's called Foundation. I released it independently back in 2015.
Now, where can people find that? Where can they find you?
Sure. So RajivHalim.com, or basically on all social media. Instagram, it's at Rajiv Halim. Twitter, it's at Rajiv Halim. If you just type Rajiv Halim into Facebook, you can find the artist page. The album is on all digital platforms. Pretty much ran out of hard copies at this point, which is fine because CDs are kind of going obsolete anyway.
No, don't say that.
But yeah, all the tracks are on YouTube. There's a couple live videos from the studio actually on YouTube, as well as some videos of my quintet playing at a couple different venues. So yeah.
Cool. All right, so let's actually talk. So you have original songs on your album. You're going to have original songs on the next one. Your conception for writing tunes and stuff like that. Can you go over that? Like, what are the first parts that come to you? Is it, is there a line you're hearing in your head, or is it an underlying harmony? How does that work for you?
Sure. So, I mean, ideally for myself, I always try to go from the melody. Like, that's the thing that people hear. That's the thing that is catchy to somebody's ear. One of my favorite composers really is Kenny Garrett, because all his songs, they all get stuck in my head, and obviously he's a monster saxophonist, and so, taking that type of approach to melody and, trying to find something that people can basically get stuck in their head, and so, if I hear a melody, I might record it into my phone, or, record it on my Zoom recorder, or try to write something out real quick, a little sketch on a piece of manuscript paper or something. And yeah, then later on I'll go to the piano and try to figure out some chords, or sometimes, a lot of the time, I'll just hear a chord progression in my head or a bass line or something and start from that. But a lot of the time I try to go from the melody, because there's a ton load of chords that can fit over a certain note, or a certain phrase. But that phrase really is what's locking in the whole song. So I try to go from the melody.
That's awesome, and there's actually a term for that. It's called audiation or audiating, where it's like an earworm. It's something that's stuck in your head, and once you have something stuck in your head, then you can try to replicate it because you got it up there already. So that's cool. That's awesome. That's
kind of my approach to arranging as well. Is if I'm playing an F sharp or something on the piano, I can play E minor, or I can play a G major, or I can play A flat dominant, or whatever. So I can take that melody and let that melody kind of anchor the arrangement or the new harmonic structure I might put on it, or let the melody kind of dictate the rhythm, based on how I'm phrasing that melody. So.
And also your life experience too, with where your parents are from and all that.
Right. So there's a lot of rhythmic, influences that I've had growing up in the household that I grew up in. So yeah, rhythm and melody to me make the harmony at the end of the day. So,
Cool stuff. Now let's talk saxophone. Okay, well you're at NAMM. All right, so we got to talk about equipment. So, let's talk the equipment.
Yeah.
So what are you using?
So on my alto, which is my main horn, I'm playing a King Super 20. So it's a vintage 1958 King Super 20 Series 3. And then in terms of mouthpiece and ligature and reed, my mouthpiece is a Meyer 7 currently. It's out of the new stock of Meyer 7s, or Meyers actually. JJ Babbitt put out a new 100-year anniversary, I think, of Otto Links and Meyers. So my repairman in Chicago, he's associated with JJ Babbitt, and he went there and they basically made him a dealer. So he's got a whole stock of these Links and Meyers, and I just got to play through 15 of them, per facing, really,
Wow.
15 7s, 15, he's just got a ton of them. And so when do we ever, maybe a situation like this at NAMM, but when do we really ever get to sit down with 10 to 15 mouthpieces of the same facing, of the same model, and pick the one we like the best? That rarely happens, at your local store or something like that.
That's for sure.
That's out of the new Meyer batch. The Otto Link metal piece that I'm playing on tenor is also out of that new batch as well. And I think the Link hard rubber piece that I'm on soprano is also out of that new batch. But anyway, to get back to the alto, Meyer 7, a Rovner Platinum ligature, and I've always played Van Doren, green box, Javas, and I'm on 3.5.
Cool, and he's got a huge sound. I mean, recording you before, I had to dial that gain back because really huge sound, huge tone. So let's talk about your tonal concept. What's going on in your mind? What are you trying to achieve with your tonal concept?
Sure. So I guess for me, regardless of the dynamic or even the genre or the style that I'm playing, I'm just trying to get a sound that is full and a sound that people can hear immediately, regardless of the dynamic. So if I'm playing pianissimo, there should still be an energy in my sound that catches somebody's ear immediately. I guess, if I'm thinking about specific players that I've modeled my sound after, Cannonball Adderley, there's no doubt. Vincent Herring was a big influence for me. Those are kind of the two main guys that I think about in terms of sound and just having a really large presence in whatever room you're in, but still at the same time being able to dial back and play a pianissimo or subtone on a ballad if I need to, but still having that full sound there regardless.
Let me ask you something. If you could provide one tip, if you could provide one tip to our listeners, viewers, with regard to tone, what would that be?
Long tones all day.
Okay, but how though? We could play long tones.
Sure.
Thinking, what I mean?
So for me, I try to, saxophones, each saxophone tends to be out of tune with itself. You could have two Yamahas and one's going to play differently than the other, especially with vintage horns. One King is definitely going to play different from another King, So a lot of the time I'm not trying to have intonation necessarily. I'm trying to basically just keep the needle still. I do my long tones with a tuner and just try to keep that needle as still as I can. And when I'm starting out practicing long tones, I start with just fortissimo or forte long tones and just try to establish that as a bass sound, and then practice softer and softer and softer and softer. So starting with just getting that full forte sound with the long tone, simple long tone, nothing. I don't do any special half notes or different. Some people do a whole note on this note, then they'll do a whole note on the next note, come back to the other note. I just do them straight up as a long tone.
Got it. Okay.
It's boring and tedious, but if you have that end goal in mind, the tediousness kind of goes away.
Yeah, and you're focusing on the sound. Actually, no. Let me ask you, what's going on in your mind? What are you listening for when you do the long tones?
Just that, the fullness that I was kind of talking about before about the sound that I'm going for. Just getting that fullness. Obviously sometimes you might have a dud reed, so knowing when to change your reed, knowing listening for something that's, for me, I kind of go with like a slightly darker sound, not overly dark, but just dark, cutting, and big, presence. So I'm just kind of listening for that, like just that fullness to still be there. If you have to change a reed, then you have to change a reed, but really the support should be coming from your diaphragm and just getting a lung full of air, and to just be able to create the sound. If you're not getting good air, I feel like your sound is not really gonna come out regardless of what mouthpiece or reed or lick you use.
Right.
So it's really, I do a lot of breathing exercises as well, actually.
Okay.
There's this series called the Breathing Gym, I believe is what it's called.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And the Breathing Gym, I do it in the morning. I need to do it more often, like every day in the morning. But not only do I get a nice like lung workout, but like it almost wakes me up better than like coffee or something. Because you're getting your air into your blood and into your body, and then as a result into the horn when you go to practice. Your lungs are warmed up and ready to go. So to me, creating a good sound and playing long tones properly really does come down to your airflow and making sure you're breathing properly as well. So,
yeah, it's the air is like fuel in a tank.
Yeah.
But you reminded me of something my trumpet teacher used to say to me, Vince Penzarella. He said, "Air's free. Use it."
Yeah.
You don't have to pay for it.
Definitely.
Which is awesome. Now, you mentioned a little bit about, we talked about your gear and stuff like that. Hey, we're at NAMM, right?
Yeah.
So, what are your impressions of NAMM?
Well, I haven't been to NAMM in 5 years. Last time I was here was 2014, so actually it's 6 years. 6 years, and it's just as large and crazy as last time. There's just so much stuff to try out, and a person like me, I like to sit with something for a good 20 minutes, and getting here early to try to sit in a quieter room and really hear a mouthpiece, or really hear a horn, or really hear an accessory that might accentuate the horn in some way. So I found a lot of pretty good stuff around here.
Yeah, we both have, right? We've been talking about it for since it's done. Going to the same booths and stuff like that. And we're going to probably hit a booth once we're done. We know which one.
Right.
There's a lot of good stuff here. And the thing, though, let's talk about this room for a second. So it's a huge convention hall. All right, now it's filled with, with booths and stuff like that. There's carpeting on the floor, but it's kind of like an open ceiling, with lights and stuff like that. So the sound, it's not, you don't get a booming sound out when you play. It kind of gets lost in the shuffle. So, when you're playing here, I feel for me, you don't really get a true indication of what that piece of equipment really sounds like. How do you approach that for yourself? Do you agree, or do you disagree?
In this room, it's really tough. Honestly, I try to find a wall or like one of these posts and just try to play into that and really listen to the sound that I'm getting. But even that is not a genuine sound, because if you're playing in a room, a standard jazz club or a standard venue, you're not really getting, to play in front of a wall. You're playing into a room, so this is not ideal, but neither is playing into a wall.
That's
so you can kind of hear the micro tendencies of a mouthpiece or a horn by playing into the wall, but then you're not really getting the effect of the room. So it's kind of weird to balance it here, which is why I can't wait to get home and try the stuff that I have in my practice space or at the places that I play usually, and see how I feel about it.
And he mentioned before, like we're able to get in earlier before you're hearing a lot of background noise. It's really hard, when you have someone trying out the highest range of a trumpet, like next door to you, or there's each booth sometimes has a little show going on, so you've seen that from the Key Leaves booth. You've had little shows going on. You've participated in one.
Right.
So that's what adds to it too. It makes it that much harder as well. So, for those folks that are wondering what NAMM is about or what it's like, there's so many manufacturers here of all the instruments, some amazing products, new products each and every year, electronic stuff. We're going to be hitting up that in a little bit. But the thing is that, it's not meant for the average consumer to come here and to purchase. It's meant for people to show new products to the industry. And so that's why it's not an ideal place to try things out, although we do,
Oh, yeah.
We definitely try things out. So, listen, Rajiv, thank you so much for your time. It was so nice meeting you.
It's good to meet you too.
Your playing is just awesome. So, definitely people check him out. He's a great player.
And shout out to Key Leaves, by the way. That's my favorite saxophone accessory of all time. I have not changed that opinion. So.
Thank you for that. That's true. We're at the Key Leaves booth, and I can't begin to tell you how swamped we've been with so many people coming over. There's so many great products that Key Leaves has out now that you really have to check out.
Yep.
Thanks so much again, Rajiv.
Of course. Thanks for having me.